Welcome back to the channel, everybody. How you doing? I just want to say I appreciate you guys being here. Today we're going to talk about, well, Hannibal Lecter.
Hello, Claire.
We're going to do a ranking and discussion of Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lamb series. It's a 4-book series. I don't know if you guys knew it was even a series. I didn't know. I just decided to read Silence of the Lamb, and then I was like, holy crap, this is a series? What I'm going to do, I've been doing this now for a while. I've been trying to, when I read a series or like an author and they just say I read, I don't know, Stephen King, I read like 10 of his books. I want to dive into them and just talk about individual books and then do a ranking and just discussion of them. I'm going to do that now in the future because I really want to. I think it's fun. And I've been doing a little bit more now. I did it with Sarah J. Maas. I did it with Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time. I did it with Emily Henry. And then I did it with the Spiderwick Chronicles. So I want to continue doing that. I actually have been enjoying it. So let's get into this. So we're going to talk about these books in order of how I read them. And then we'll go from there. Now, first book on here is what's playing on the back? Silence of the Lamb. Arguably the best book in the whole series. I mean, you'll know my ranking at the end. But I read Silence of the Lamb. I decided to read it just because I already had it. I actually own this book for a couple years now. I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's read it. And I read it. Holy crap. Every scene you were reading this book with Hannibal Lecter, like the scene that's going on right now of Hannibal Lecter being a weirdo with Clarice, it's really, really good. Hannibal Lecter stole the scenes in this whole book. And don't get me wrong, Clarice is an awesome main character. The way that Thomas Harris writes pacing in this book is really, really good too. I feel like the pacing in his books are really, really good. Like they're fast and all the chapters are fast. They're just like some of them is like 2 pages, boom, new chapter. 3 pages, boom, new chapter. That's really fun to get into as well. I like that a lot while reading these. It was really, because to me, I'm one of those guys that's like, oh, I'll read 1 chapter and call it good. This is like, I'm going to read 6 chapters and look how far I am into this. All of them are also bigger fonts. So if you guys are worried about, oh, how small is the font? Covered. But this is following Jodie. I keep saying Jodie Foster because she's on the TV. But this is following the character, Clarice Starling, and she's figuring out the murder case of Buffalo Bill. And she needs Hannibal Lecter to help her. Because Hannibal Lecter is, well, psychiatrist, and he is the one that had Buffalo Bill as, not really Buffalo Bill, well, he kind of did, as a, well, patient. But with that being said, the book itself is so good that you just sit back and just watch how amazing this is. You have Hannibal Lecter telling her, giving her hints of how to catch Buffalo Bill because he can find out, because clearly he's a killer and he knows how these things work, and Clarice doesn't. And the other thing I like about this book is you get to see the lens of the eyes through a woman of the 90s, essentially, of how police officers treated women differently. And a lot of scenes, even in the movie, there's a lot of parts where Clarice is dealing with a lot of men who just don't really respect her because she's a woman, which to me, like when I'm reading this, I'm like, that makes sense. It does. It makes a lot of sense because they're going to be like, oh, she doesn't know anything. She's a woman. So when I'm reading this and then you see how awesome Clarice is, it's awesome. And I like how Clarice is, she's so smart in this book where she doesn't steep to their level. Like some of them just look at her and they just kind of are sexist towards her. But instead of her being like retaliate, she just moves on and nothing happens. She just overcomes everything and just becomes a better character. It's just an awesome book. So the next one on here is Red Dragon. So when I read Silence of the Lamb, I think I said in my review that I didn't know it was a series, and then I was like, all right, screw it, I'm gonna just read the whole series. And there's only 4 books. Goodreads showed me there was only 4 books. So I was like, all right, this is actually before Silence of the Lamb, and then Hannibal Rising is before Red Dragon, so that's interesting. Red Dragon, you don't really see a lot of Hannibal Lecter in this book, but that's okay. So this book takes place with Will Graham. Now, Will Graham is in Silence of the Lamb, which is really cool. Like, he describes how he got, like, mutilated kind of by Hannibal Lecter. And this book kind of takes place with Hannibal Lecter. There's a lot of things where Francis, the murderer, actually responds to with Hannibal Lecter in this book. So you have those kind of cool elements, and Will Graham is the detective of trying to find Francis. He's the one who caught Hannibal Lecter. Through this, there is a couple scenes where you do have Hannibal Lecter talk to Will, in this, and those are really, really good scenes. They're really short. It doesn't happen too much. I think it only happens like twice in this. So you have those moments that are really good. And when you do meet Francis, the Red Dragon, it's actually really sad of what's going on with Francis. And I will say this now. Actually, I'm going to say this towards the end of the video. But this is a really fun book. This actually took me longer to read compared to Silence of the Lamb, and I think it's because Clarice was not in it, so I was like, I was a little bummed out because Clarice was not in it, and I really like Clarice as a character, but I think Will does a really good job. He has really good motives of why he's doing this. He's doing it for his family. He's doing it to help everybody, even though his wife and even him know this is going to really mess you up, Will, but he continues to do it anyways. I really appreciate that. Next one on here is Hannibal, the sequel to Silence of the Lamb. This book was kind of a disappointment. I was really excited to get into this book because, for one, I love Clarice. Like I said in Silence of the Lamb, I think Clarice is awesome. Hannibal, I also was excited for, but the problem is with this book is you see too much Hannibal. I feel like these books are really, really, really good is when you have less Hannibal. It's like the less is more, but more is less, if that makes sense. So to me, when I'm reading this, I expected to really, really enjoy this book. But the first half of this book, it's broken up in a couple parts. Part one, you just deal with Clarice, and she does get a letter from Hannibal Lecter, which is really cool. I got really excited. I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to see these two go at it, especially without a bar between the two. That's been really, really fun to see. Does not happen though. Sadly, I was kind of upset with that whole thing. But with Hannibal, the second part is Hannibal Lecter is in Italy, and so the police are like trying to get him. So it's just a whole lot of just planning to capture Hannibal Lecter to make a ton of money. And it just really drags out. I'm not the biggest fan of that middle part. And then the rest of the book, that middle part kind of takes the whole book out for me. Everything else is fun. I really enjoyed this book after that. The ending of Hannibal was still a little sus. It's a little weird for me, but the movie does a little differently, and I kind of like how the movie does its ending compared to how the book does the ending. That's just me though. I would love to know what you guys think about that, of course. Last but not least, Hannibal Rising. This is the last one I read. This is a prequel to all of them. This is the prequel. I had no idea what I was getting into. I was really worried about this because the problem is when you read prequels to really, really good books, either the prequels are really, really bad or they're really, really good. This is actually on the part of being really good. I did not expect that. I went in with kind of a negative feel. Like I didn't really think this is going to be really good because I didn't like Hannibal that much. And I was like, oh, maybe Thomas Harris is just trying to milk that money. But then I read Hannibal Rising. I was like, this is a really good book. He's really milking it. That's fine. This is a really good book. A lot better than I anticipated on. And I'm not going to complain about that. This was a really fun book. You get to see how Hannibal became, well, the monster. You learn so much about it. And honestly, how he became a monster is because, well, it's Nazi's fault. With that being said, I did not expect this to happen at all. But man, I was so happy to see this book come to life. I love seeing everything, the growth of Hannibal becoming a monster. And it's just one of those things that I've seen plenty of times listening to podcasts of criminal murder podcasts where they talk about it's essentially trauma. That is why these murderers are doing this. It's something happened to them when they were a kid, and then, well, they just become these crazy murderers every single time, and that's what happened with Hannibal Lecter. So I want to discuss this before I do my ranking. One thing I do like about these books, one of the best pros in this whole entire book is the pacing. It's really, really good. And if you are a big fan of Hannibal Lecter, then you're going to probably like this because he is a great character, and you can see why he is like really close to being like on the Mount Rushmore of like iconic murderers for literature, just for cinema, for entertainment. He really is. He's definitely up there with like the Michael Myers, the Jason Voorhees, the Screams, such like that. And it's just crazy because he is just a dude. He's not even wearing a mask. But the way that Thomas Harris has wrote Hannibal Lecter, it's so iconic to the point where there's times where you're reading this book where you don't know, is Hannibal truly that crazy or is he just a normal guy? But then you actually see him, well, start killing fools, and you're like, all right, well, I could see why he's locked up. It's one of those things, and I really enjoy seeing that element with this book. The only thing, and the other thing is, I like Clarice. I think he wrote Clarice as just an awesome character, a lot better than I thought. But I think the biggest problem about this whole series is it could have just been a standalone, no problem. Red Dragon itself is fine. I don't really count, like, Red Dragon is a part of the series, but it also could be fine. Like, Silence of the Lamb is arguably the best one of the whole series, that everyone knows that, but I would say, like, you didn't have to make a prequel novel to it or a sequel. It could have been a perfect standalone, and you could still read Silence of the Lamb as a standalone. But if you want to know what's going on with Hannibal after Silence of the Lamb and Clarice, clearly you can. But that is like the biggest con, is you didn't have to make this into a series. Is it a good series? Yeah, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was, but there's a lot of moments, especially in Hannibal, I felt like it was a lot weaker than I anticipated on. Another thing I want to say with this series as well is the pacing is really good. He writes the books pretty fast. It is definitely a quick paced thriller novel. You really get to learn these characters a lot quicker than you think. Small, short chapters, a lot of people like that. I like that personally. I used to have no idea how I felt about it, because I remember I read a book, like when I first got back into reading after high school. I was reading, I don't remember what book it was, but the chapters were super short, and I was like, holy crap, is this like how adults write books? You know, it was one of those things I was thinking. I was like, wow, all right, this is awesome. So when I got into Silence of the Lamb, I noticed all of that whole book was like that. I was like, let's go. And then I realized the whole series is like that. I'm like, woo! So that is a huge benefit of this series, is like, it is a very quick pace series, and I really do enjoy it. I love it. I absolutely love it. So we're gonna get into a ranking. The ranking is gonna be pretty simple, I think. There's only 4 books. Honestly, the lowest rating is still a 4. I would say this series as a whole is an average of probably a 4. I had 2 4-stars, 1 4.5 star, and 1 5-star. I think you guys all will know what is my favorite, and I think you guys might know what is my least favorite. Let's get into it. Least favorite is Hannibal. My third in this is Red Dragon. Second is Hannibal Rising. And of course, last one is Silence of the Lambs. Just so folks know what I'm talking about, this is my order. I feel like this is a really good order. I mean, there's people that might flip some of these around. That's perfectly fine. I still think Silence of the Lamb is the best book, and I think the rest of them you can just flip them around. But I did enjoy this series a lot more than I thought, and I'm really glad I read it. If you guys have any other, like maybe a 4-book series of just like a crime thriller, let me know down below. I'm actually slowly getting into crime thrillers. I just want to get into more different genres that I don't read too much. So just let me know down below of what other ones I should check out in the future, and maybe I will. That would be awesome. Or I will always, usually when people recommend me books, I'm just going to say this now. Every time you guys recommend me a book, I always add the first book of that series on my TBR on Goodreads every single time. So when the time comes and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to add, I always look at them and think, oh, I might read this time. I'm really feeling it. That's usually what I do. But clearly, everyone knows, as a book collector, you always have endless amounts of books to read. That is the biggest issue. But I will say, let me know. I will add them to my TBR. I never, ever will ignore it. But again, thank you. If you guys made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. What do you guys think about the Hannibal Lecter series? Have you read Hannibal Lecter? Have you read any of these books? If you have, let me know down below. What do you guys think about them? If you haven't, why are you watching this video? I would love to know that as well. Regardless though, stay safe, stay humble, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay weird.